Turn it off, Emma. Please, turn it off, cried Jake, his voice shaking. But Emma couldn't move. Her hand hovered above the dusty old radio, frozen, as the voice from the speaker kept whispering her name over and over again. Emma Turner, why did you leave us? The voice was soft at first, like a sad child, then it became deeper, rougher, almost angry. The air around the room grew cold, and the old radio's dials spun on their own. The static crackled and another voice, a man's, broke through the noise. Get out before midnight, it warned. They're coming back. The lights flickered. The sound of footsteps echoed through the house, not from upstairs, not from the hallway, but from inside the radio speaker itself. Emma stepped back, eyes wide, and Jake grabbed her arm. Then came a scream. It wasn't from any person in the room. It came from the radio, a blood-curdling scream that made the walls tremble and the window glass rattle. And just like that, silence. The room fell still, except for the faint hum of the old machine. Emma slowly looked down at the radio. The dials were glowing red now, and her reflection in the shiny metal surface wasn't her own. It was someone else, someone pale, with hollow eyes, staring right back at her. Jake whispered, "That's not you, Emma." The reflection blinked. Then the radio clicked, and started to play an old tune from the 1940s. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when. That's when the power went out. 3 days earlier, the Turners had just moved into their new home, a small, quiet house at the edge of Mill Creek, a sleepy town in Indiana. It was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Emma's parents had bought the old house at a low price. It had belonged to an elderly couple who passed away years ago. Most of their furniture had been cleared out, except one thing, an antique wooden radio sitting in the living room corner. It looked like something from another century. Curved edges, golden knobs, and a dial that had letters fading from age. Emma thought it was beautiful. Jake, her twin brother, thought it was creepy. Why would anyone keep this thing? He said as the floorboards groaned as the radio's hum deepened. The golden dials turned on their own, flicking through static and old tunes like invisible hands were spinning them. Jake backed away, nearly tripping over the rug, while Emma stood frozen in front of the radio. The voice spoke again. They never left Mill Creek. Then the light bulb above them burst with a sharp pop, scattering glass across the wooden floor. The entire house went dark. Only the soft red glow of the radio dial lit the room. And then, silence. Emma whispered, "Grandma?" No reply. Only faint crackling. "Emma, let's go upstairs," Jake said, grabbing her arm. But before he could pull her away, the radio let out a deep, drawn-out breath. A whisper followed. "You shouldn't have turned it on." The twins ran. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway as they bolted into their bedroom and slammed the door. Jake pushed a chair against it, breathing hard. "What was that?" he hissed. Emma shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "It said our names, Jake." "How did it know our names?" Jake didn't answer. He just sat there listening, waiting for another sound. But the house was completely still. Even the crickets outside had gone silent. They didn't sleep that night. By morning, the house felt different, colder. Their parents noticed something was wrong. "Rough night?" their dad asked at breakfast. "Yeah," Jake muttered. "We heard noises." Their mom laughed. "Old houses creak, sweetie. That's normal." But the twins shared a look. They knew it wasn't the house creaking. It was the voices. Later that afternoon, while their parents were in town, Jake decided to prove it. "We'll record it," he said, holding up his phone. "If it happens again, we'll have proof." Emma hesitated. "What if it makes them angry?" "Come on. It's just a radio. Old wires, maybe it's picking up something weird." She didn't believe that, not anymore, but she followed him anyway. The radio sat silent in the corner, its wooden frame gleaming faintly under the light. Dust floated in the air. Jake crouched and switched on his phone camera. "Okay," he said. "Let's see what you've got." He turned the knob. Nothing. Just static. He turned it again, slowly. The dragging sound grew louder, a slow scrape against the wood beneath their feet, like something crawling through the floorboards. Jake and Emma froze, staring down as the noise circled the living room. Then, a faint knock echoed from under the rug. Emma gasped. Jake, it's right under us. Before Jake could answer, the rug started to lift, not by wind, not by their movement, but by something pushing up from below. Dust puffed into the air as a thin crack opened between the wooden planks. A whisper came through. Let us in. Jake grabbed Emma's hand. Run. They bolted up the stairs, slamming the bedroom door behind them. The floor beneath still creaked and groaned, as if the thing below was moving closer, trying to find a way up. Emma pressed her ear to the floor. The whispering had changed, it wasn't words anymore. It was humming. The same old song from the radio, but slower. Off-key. Jake grabbed his flashlight. We need to see what's down there. Emma shook her head. No, we don't. We need to leave. Mom and Dad are coming back soon. We'll sound crazy if we don't have proof. He started toward the stairs. But before he could open the door, the radio, still downstairs, turned on again by itself. This time, there was no static. No music. Just a clear, old-fashioned voice. This is Mill Creek Station. Broadcasting for the missing souls of July 1947. Emma's heart nearly stopped. 1947? Jake looked at her. That's when Grandma was a kid. The voice continued. Tonight's message, the flood took them all. They never left the house. They never found peace. Then came the sound of rushing water, as if the room below was flooding. The radio began to hiss and spit. Jake and Emma ran downstairs, their socks sliding on the wooden steps. When they reached the bottom, the living room was filled with mist. Cold, thick, rolling mist that came from nowhere. The old radio stood at the center, glowing faint blue. And then, they saw them. Figures. Faint silhouettes of people, men, women, children, standing in the mist, dressed in soaked 1940s clothes. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. One of them stepped forward, a young woman clutching a baby. Water dripped from her hair. Her voice was gentle, but broken. We drowned here, we all did. The bridge collapsed. Emma's blood turned cold. She looked at Jake, her voice trembling. That sounded like Dad. Jake stared at the doorway. The blue glow from the radio shimmered faintly inside, flickering like candlelight. Dad's not home, he whispered. He's not supposed to be home for another hour. Then, from the living room, the voice came again, steady, calm, but wrong. Kids, it's cold out there. Come inside. I've been waiting for you. Emma shook her head violently. That's not him, Jake. That's not Dad. But then they heard the sound of footsteps, heavy, wet footsteps moving slowly across the soaked wooden floor. Whatever, it was coming closer to the door. The knob turned once. Then again. Jake grabbed Emma's arm and whispered, Run. Now. They sprinted across the yard toward the dirt road. But before they reached the gate, every streetlight in Mill Creek flickered and went dark at the same time. The night swallowed them whole. Behind them, the old house groaned, long and low, like something inside it was breathing. And then, faintly in the distance, they heard music. That same 1940s tune, playing softly from the house. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when. It echoed through the empty street, through the trees, through the fog that began to roll in. Jake stopped running. Wait, do you hear that? Emma grabbed his arm. Don't stop. Please, don't stop. But he did. Because he heard something else underneath the song. A voice calling his name. He turned around slowly. Through the mist, he saw them again. The ghostly figures from before, standing by the porch. Their faces were pale, their eyes empty, and each one reached toward him, dripping water. The woman with the baby stepped forward. You can't leave. The radio remembers you now. Jake stumbled backward. What do you want from us? She pointed toward the radio inside the window. Turn it off before midnight, or you'll be with us when the... Emma stumbled backward, screaming as her reflection smiled up from the watery floor. The image rippled, but her reflection didn't vanish. It just stood there under the floodwater, lips moving soundlessly. Then the whisper came, faint but clear. "Take my place, Emma Turner." Jake grabbed her arm, pulling her away. The whole house was shaking now. Water burst through the walls like a broken dam. The radio downstairs was glowing bright blue, spinning its dials so fast they blurred. From below, hundreds of voices cried out together. "Join us! The bridge is breaking again!" Emma and Jake ran down the hallway, the floor tilting beneath them. The old wooden beams groaned like a ship about to split apart. Jake kicked open the attic door. "Up here!" They scrambled inside. The attic was filled with old boxes and cobwebs. Moonlight beamed through the cracks in the roof, cutting across the darkness. But the sound of rushing water grew louder, closer. Jake looked around frantically. There has to be another way out. Emma spotted a small window at the far end. There. They crawled toward it, the floor creaking dangerously. Just as Jake reached for the window latch, the radio's voice echoed up from below, no longer soft or ghostly, but thunderous, like a storm speaking. "You can't escape time." Then, silence. The water stopped rising. The shaking stopped. Everything went still. Jake hesitated. Did it stop? But Emma's eyes widened. "Jake, look." Through the cracks in the attic wall, a bright light shone, not moonlight, but something golden and flickering. She crawled closer and peered out. Outside wasn't Mill Creek anymore. It was underwater. The houses floated in darkness. Streetlights shimmered beneath the surface. The bridge in the distance was snapped in half, its wooden planks twisting in the current. Jake stared in disbelief. "It's the flood. We're inside 1947. The radio's glow pulsed from downstairs like a heartbeat. The whispers returned, soft but clear. "The storm took us. The river kept us. The radio remembers us." Emma covered her ears. "Make it stop." Jake crawled to a dusty trunk in the corner of the attic. Inside, he found an old notebook, its pages soaked but still readable. On the first page, scrawled in shaky handwriting, it said, "Mill Creek Radio Log, July 13, 1947. He flipped the page. The next entry read, "The power's gone. The water is rising. We broadcast until the end. If anyone hears this, please remember us." Emma whispered, "That's them. The ones we heard." Jake's hands trembled. They used the radio to call for help, but the signal never stopped. He looked at the glowing floorboards. "It's trapped